Am I the arsehole? For defending my parents' choice to take money for my sister's surgery out of her college fund? I am a freshman in college, as is my sister Leah. Our parents weren't the best off growing up, but they always set aside money for us to go to college. Leah played soccer, and before her freshman year of high school our parents sat her down and told her that if she played, she needed to be careful because if she got hurt all the money to pay for it would come out of her college fund. Several schools in the league our high school is in are pretty good with a reputation for playing rough, and she isn't the biggest person, so she knew there were risks involved. In our sophomore year she had a pretty bad non-contact injury that ended up needing surgery and several months of physical therapy. All this money came out of what would be contributed to her fund, and I don't know an exact number but all the appointments and stuff were at least several thousand. Now we're both going to similarly priced schools, and she will need more loans than I do. In a group chat we're both in I made a joke about how expensive college is and she responded, now imagine paying thousands more because your parents don't want to pay for your medical bills. I privately messaged her and told her I didn't think she should be sharing personal stuff like that and that she knew the risks of soccer and chose to play anyway. She said that she was free to share something that really upset her and that I needed to stick up for her against our parents. She's argued about this many times. She said that they paid for my medical bills so they should for hers and that I was a shitty sister and is asking for me to tell our parents they should have paid. I don't think I should have to. They clearly outlined what they would and wouldn't pay for and the risks she chose to take aren't my problem. Am I the arsehole here? Hold on, why did they pay for your medical bills but not hers? Not enough details here, but I'm getting the feeling you're not sharing on purpose because it would make you and your parents look like the assholes. You're the asshole and painfully obvious that you are also the favored child. Your parents should not have used the college fund, especially when they paid for your treatments out of pocket. Not the asshole, although I wouldn't have said anything to her about speaking on it in public. I would, however, clarify that she had been given a choice and is now facing the consequences. Love how you left out some key information here and just casually slip in that they paid for your medical bills and not hers. What's the story there, Opham? You on high. Ib be up job NBL high. Iobu. Sucks here. Not the asshole. Best wishes for a great school year for both of you. You're the asshole and your parents are horrible. You're the asshole. You should stay out of it. I also think your parents are assholes. This was a non-contact injury and they also paid your sports injuries. You're not to blame for your parents being assholes, but at the very least it's an extra reason to stay out of it. Did they not have insurance? Or good insurance? I can't imagine copays were that bad if they had decent insurance. I could be wrong, but why would they have two college funds but shitty medical insurance? I honestly believe they should have had insurance for their minor children and not taken from the college fund. You're the asshole and so are your parents. Your parents didn't have health insurance from a job for the family? Your sister is the asshole. She went in knowing the risks and she made the decision to proceed. Unfortunately, she had an incident and is paying for it. It sucks, but it was her decision to make and her consequences to live with. She's holding a grudge against your parents that does need to be addressed. You're the asshole. Being informed in advance makes it no less of a D-move. Parents are responsible for the medical expenses of a minor child, full stop. I don't know who the R is here, but I'm really glad I don't like in a country with either of these problems. Not the asshole took the risk stupidly. You're the asshole. I didn't think she should be sharing personal stuff like that. Guilty people love discretion. You're the asshole for telling your sister what she can talk about. She was not lying. Your parents are more the assholes for not treating the both of you equally. If your college fund was not used to cover your medical bills but your sisters were, then that is unfair. It does not matter if a young teen agreed to it. That was unfair to ask in the first place. If they had money for other things but just didn't want to use it on your sister's injury, that was horrible. Hurt her. You're the asshole. She has a right to be upset. 1. Did your parents not have insurance? 2. If they were so poor to not have insurance, they would qualify for Medicaid, which pays for surgery. 103. They paid for your medical expenses but not hers. This seems very inequitable and questionable. Your sister has a valid point. Not the asshole. Medical bills are crazy high, as well as college fees. They use the funds they save for her. In the end, she benefits from her parents' savings. Does insurance not cover it? Your parents and you ate a holes. Maybe you'll see that someday. You're the asshole. Good luck ever having a good relationship with your sister. Oh, favorite golden child. You're the asshole, and so are your parents. I hate the fact people are making the assumption Op's parents were making this decision out of malice. It is possible to just not have the money for additional expenses. I applaud Op's parents for putting money aside for their kids, considering they shouldn't have told them, so there would be no such expectation. Once again, the US healthcare system is the biggest asshole, but you are clearly the golden child. All sports have injury risk, and I know plenty of people who had medical bills despite not being athletes at all. It is a parent's responsibility to make sure their children get medical care. The fact that the US healthcare system is an exploitative joke and it costs more than it has any right to is irrelevant, because they decided your bills were important enough to pay for, but your sisters weren't. Except your sister. You're the asshole for telling her not to talk about it. Your parents are huge assholes for doing this to your sister, and you thinking it is normal or okay also makes you an asshole. Why didn't your parents have insurance? They could afford to put thousands in savings but didn't have health insurance? Who TF sits a child down and tells her that they won't be paying for medical expenses if that child plays a sport and gets injured, and they'll have to pay for the medical expenses themselves? If you can't afford to pay for these things, don't allow her to play ridiculous. A child shouldn't have to worry about that, and probably didn't even believe something would happen. She was a child. Is no one mentioning how crazy it is that someone would have to choose between healthcare or college? This is why you shouldn't play public schools sports. You destroy your body and you and your family to deal with the consequences. You're the asshole. Regardless of who is right about the medical bills, and I agree with your sister, for the record, you have no right to tell her not to talk about it. Also, if you think it's right that your parents didn't pay her medical bills, there's no reason to be ashamed of her sharing it if she shouldn't tell people. You know it's wrong. You're the asshole. How on earth could your sister control the fact that she got injured? So, if you ever get sick or injured, will you be punished for it by having it rubbed in your face and having to go into debt? Did your parents not have health insurance for you and your sister? If you think your parents did the right thing, you wouldn't be telling your sister not to talk about it. It affects her, she can talk about it all she wants. And this is another example of why shitty health insurance and for-profit healthcare sucks. Why don't you stay out of it? It's none of your business. You're the asshole. Probably should have gotten better insurance. It was a non-contact injury, odds are high it was an ACL or Achilles. My company insurance wouldn't make me pay so much it would cost my son's college fund. You're the asshole. The post leaves a lot of information out. Reading the comments from Op, she is the R1. Parents could have paid for the sister medical bill. 2 OP had an injury and the bill was paid for. 3 both her and her sister sustained non-contact injuries. 4 OP could have sided with the sister and advocated with parents. 5 sounds like the parents just had something against one specific sport, which was what her sister liked. Anyway, clear you're the asshole, if you read all OP comments. You're the asshole. Since you seem to believe that your parents have nothing to be ashamed of, your sister should have the right to talk about this whole mess of a situation. Get it together, Op.
Am I the asshole? For taking my parents' assignment too literally and being too honest? My parents called for a family meeting last Sunday and said they were realizing that we didn't have the happy little tight-knit family they had expected to have. They expressed that we had all been closer when we were little kids. For context, it's me, my brother James, and my other brother Easton. But now it felt like we never spent time as brothers. Especially me and James. And that sharing a room, they would have expected more from us. My parents said they wanted us to all be totally open and honest about how we felt and to express if we had any issues with the family to get out of the way. They said they weren't going to take a turn until after the three of us spoke first, and we couldn't leave until we opened up and said everything. I told them I felt like they had somewhat unrealistic goals. That they ignored some stuff that had been mentioned to them in the past that would have made the lack of closeness less of a surprise. And that it was weird for them to pretend they had no idea of anything going on. I admitted that I hate sharing a room with James. That personality-wise, he and I clash. And that he relies too much on being the younger brother and getting his own way. Which annoys me. I said I had told them this before. James will set up these sleepover nights for him and me on the floor, and he'll expect me to play football outside with him until it's close to midnight and then go in and watch movies that bore me to tears and sleep in our sleeping bags instead of our beds. I said he started insisting we do things he enjoys when we were like 8 and 10, and ever since that point hanging out with him has not been fun for me. It has not made me feel closer to him. I admitted that I would rather share with Easton. I also said I had brought this stuff to my parents' attention before. And even complained when he was messing up my side of the room and left me to clean up. Which my parents expected me to do instead of him. I also mentioned that I hate hanging out with his friends who I have nothing in common with. I told my parents they overlooked James being mean to Easton. That it might be due to jealousy and resentment that I'm closer to Easton, or it might be due to Easton being the youngest, but they would never let me say to James what James can say to Easton. I also said they treat us like we're little kids. They will tell us to go hang with much younger kids and do their activities at family houses, and they'll tell us no video games until we play outside. And that even after 16 years of knowing me, they still can't accept that I don't like sports, and it's not my idea of fun to kick a ball or run around, and it never has been. James was upset about the stuff I said about him, especially about not wanting to hang out with him and his friends. My parents were furious with me and said I had no right to say all that. I said I was doing what they asked, and they said that wasn't what they asked for. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. And your parents were fools to think a conversation like that was ever going to go well. I guess just like pretending you were one big, happy family. You were supposed to lie to preserve the illusion. They are completely wrong for being upset with you. Truth hurts sometimes. My parents said they wanted us to all be totally open and honest about how we felt and to express if we had any issues with the family to get out of the way. My parents were furious with me and said I had no right to say all that. I said I was doing what they asked, and they said that wasn't what they asked for. That's exactly what they asked for. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. They asked, you answered. You might suggest to them that if they'd like to explore this further, family counseling with a neutral therapist might be more productive than asking for honesty and then yelling about it. I think you're really going to like college. Not the asshole. Your parents didn't think this through. You did, though. If you had a therapist in the room, they would have applauded you for getting to the heart of the matter, as long as you weren't gratuitously cruel to your mid-bro in how you said it, such as by name calling, contemptuous looks, etc. You deserved an A here. You understood the assignment perfectly and were open and honest. Not the asshole. I don't know what they were expecting when they wanted you all to be honest. You were honest and pointed out the things which were causing discord in your life. If they didn't like the answer, they shouldn't have asked. Parents, be honest. Parents, no, not like that. Sorry, your parents suck, dude. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Your parents are naive. No shit, the family dynamic changes when little kids become teenagers. The ones who need to grow up and stop being so childish are them, not you. Hey, your parents asked, and you answered, and you told the truth. As you see it, not whatever happy bullshit they were wanting and expecting to hear. WTF, and not the asshole. Not the asshole. You will probably get close again when you're older. But you three are still becoming yourselves. And it's normal to start liking different things. I'm surprised your parents don't know relationships can't be forced. Part of the problem is that the teenage years are divided into much smaller life stages. 14 and 16 are way different developmentally. 14 is barely out of the EU girl cooties stage, and at 16 you're thinking about and planning post-high school. That you and your brother are very different people, and your parents seeming to favor your brother over you isn't helping. You are too old to have your parents trying to force friendships even if they are with your siblings. It sounds like the only people who had a problem with your sibling relationships were your parents. What your parents are doing should have been done a decade ago. Not the asshole. Sounds like they wanted a Hallmark moment and they received a list of things that need improvement. Instead, truth can get pretty harsh. Not the asshole. They didn't want you to open up. They wanted you to admit that you were just pretending not to be close. Sounds you have a golden child in your midst. That sucks. Does James ever do things with you that you want to do? Not the asshole. Sounds like your parents said to be honest, so they come out looking good for being so open. But still actually expected you to keep the peace so they can continue living in fantasy land. It's totally on them, and you did exactly what they asked. They can be mad, but you have done nothing wrong except not play along with their fantasy. Not the asshole. Anyone who thinks a truthful answer to the question, "What's wrong with our family?" is going to be pleasant to hear is a fool. Not the asshole. Your parents are. They're not dealing with reality. I can see where your brother gets it from. They make up in their head how things are going to go. And then get upset when it doesn't work out that way. They literally asked you to be open and honest about your feelings. And then tell you that you have no right to say it. That's ridiculous. They're not trying to solve the problem. It's almost as if they're looking for someone else to blame. Not the asshole, though I do wonder what it was that they wanted you to say. Not the asshole. Now you know who the favorite is. Maybe it's my own family dynamic coloring my view. But the vibe I'm getting is that James is the favored son and mom and dad don't actually give a crap about the other kids' feelings. They are just trying to figure out why the others don't love their precious baby as much as they do. For example, OP mentioned that they refuse to accept that he doesn't like sports while James is content to play football outside until all hours. They let James get away with treating the youngest badly while OP couldn't do the same. I smell a possible golden child here. Not the asshole. And I absolutely despise people like your parents. The whole we want the truth. No, not that truth. We want truth. Can't wait for in 2 years' time to see a post, "Why did my son leave?" and say he never wants to talk to me again. Jokes aside, your parents got exactly what they asked for. Heck, if you cut out the parts asking if you're ta, I'd have thought this was a post on malicious compliance or SMTHN. Not the asshole. Of course they're pissed. You insulted their favorite from the sound of it.
Am I the asshole for using the men's room? My husband and I were at a craft fair that was being held at a brewery. I felt nature's call, but saw the line for the women's room. So I waited. 1 or 2 drinks later, it's time for the restroom. First, I go to the women's room. There are 10 women waiting in line. Then, I look at the men's room. Both restrooms have completely open doors. Like breweries. There is no one waiting, and there are 3 females in the men's room washing their hands. So I think, soil my pants or use the men's room? My bladder chose the men's room. After the fact, I told my husband about it, thinking it would be a funny anecdote. He got so angry thinking that I was using the men's room for sexual reasons. I slept on the couch for the next 2 days. My argument was that in an absolute emergency, whatever bathroom you choose doesn't matter. Whenever nature calls for him, he will go pull over wherever or whenever. The transition from, I used the men's room because I had to pee so bad, haha, to you went because you wanted the sexual attention is sparse. Without more context, no. But if there is something more to this, then maybe. But most likely no. Edit spelling. Is your husband insane? Has he never been to a concert? Women use the men's stalls all the time whenever lines are long. Such an obvious not the asshole. I was using the men's room years ago and heard a noise behind me. 2 women came in because the women's room was crowded and they had been drinking. They gave me wolf whistles and commented on my size and the fact that I was right-handed. Probably not the asshole in this case, but women thinking that using the men's room has no impact on men is you're the asshole in the extreme. I do agree they all should be separate and unisex. Either a lot of context is missing here or your husband is literally insane. Not the asshole, emo bathrooms shouldn't even be gendered, just make a fuckload of stalls, proper ones without these massive gaps in them like how they're made now lol, and let people pee in peace. I say use whatever restroom is available. Be it the men's or women's restroom. But don't get all up in arms when a man uses the women's restroom. My personal feel on this subject is to just create unisex restrooms. Just a line of stalls with a toilet in each one. And then communal wash areas. No rooms where only ladies or men can go into. What if I'm a man who sometimes uses the women's when desperate, if the cubicle in the men's is occupied for ages or the toilet is broken? Like, should I just soil myself? Not the asshole. But as an adult you could be a lot better about bathroom planning. Like get in the long line when you realize you have to go and you see the line. My 4-year understands this. Am I the asshole? For telling my M26GFF28 to shut up after she woke me up at 2 a.m. by yelling at me. We live together and I work tomorrow morning and she is off, so I go to bed before her around 11 p.m. no problem. I am woken up at 2 a.m. to her asking if the AC is on. I am confused and groggy so I don't respond fast. She starts yelling at me saying the room is too hot and she doesn't Am I the asshole? For arranging childcare far away from my wedding reception. I got married this summer. And while I wanted a child-free wedding, I realized that this would exclude a lot of my friends and family. So I came up with what I thought was a good compromise. I rented out my brother's indoor playground and paid the staff to work late. Basically, I paid them double time until midnight whether there were kids there or not. They are all trained in first aid and have all been screened by the police. On top of that, several of the older kids that didn't want to go to the reception stayed there as well to keep an eye on everything. As well as 2 ladies from my church. I also provided food and drinks. The problem is that the playground was about 2 miles away from the reception. So you basically had to choose between leaving nude kids there or bringing them with you. I figured that it was a good option for anyone with kids that might get rowdy. Anyone with infants obviously wouldn't leave them there. Boy, was I wrong. People were mad that it was so far away. About a 5-minute drive. They were mad that the kids didn't get the same food as the people at the reception. No, they got pizza, nachos, and fried chicken. They were mad I didn't have someone to watch nursing babies. I was cool with people bringing babies to the reception. There was a mother's room at the hall for nursing and changing babies. I have been called all kinds of names for what I honestly thought was a nice thing. My husband said we should just have gone child-free and dealt with that hate instead of wasting money on ingrates. My aunt actually called me an asshole for not wanting a couple of dozen screaming and crying kids at the reception. Damned if you do and damned if you don't. Not the asshole. 2 miles? When I read your title, I was thinking it was like a 45-minute drive and anyone with smaller kids would be worrying. This is so not an issue. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. This is the best solution I've heard on here from anyone who wanted a child-free wedding. You provided multiple options for people to choose from, put the kids there where they have fun with others their age, get your own babysitter or stay home. Whoever still had a problem was looking for one. Also, who gets mad at different food options? What you provided sounds way more kid-friendly than what was probably at the wedding. Not the asshole. Oh my gosh, what a generous and lovely thing to have arranged for the children of your family and friends. I would have had a blast at a place like that as a kid. I would have thought the parents would have appreciated a free night out off. What is wrong with people these days? Not the asshole. That sounds like a lovely compromise, and I bet the kids were happier there than they would have been at a wedding reception. Let's face it, not many 5-year-olds really want to sit through a long ceremony and a bunch of speeches, or to eat fancy grown-up wedding food. My kid self would have much preferred the pizza also. When you said it was far, I was picturing somewhere much, much further away, that 5 minutes down the road, smiley face. Not the asshole. At least now you know what whiners you should avoid inviting to any future events. When did everyone become entitled to their vision of perfect, free, immediately accessible childcare serving the menu of their choice? SMH. Info. In what backwards reality is 2 miles considered far? I'm reading comments like, what if someone's kid got injured and they're all that distance away? Well then, worst case, when no motor vehicle is functioning, you can sprint and be there in 15 minutes. Not the asshole. Not. Other than the complaints, did the reception turn out as you wanted? Definitely not the asshole. You went way beyond what most people do for child-free weddings. You are honestly a superstar of a bride. Your family friends sound like a bunch of ungrateful people. I am inclined to think your husband is right, that you spend a lot of money and still were totally hated on. Honestly, this is amazing. You went way above the call of duty and people are awful. Not the asshole. Mom of 4, I would slam dunk my kids in that indoor playground and then add whatever I would have spent on a babysitter to your wedding gift. What a thoughtful, considerate solution. Bonus, I guarantee the kids were happier with pizza and play equipment than at a sit-down dinner. You sound like an incredibly thoughtful bride. Not the asshole. I'm sick of parents acting like they need to take their kids everywhere. I hate that they don't want my kids at their wedding and then acting foolish when childcare is arranged. You did more than I would have, you were gracious. Not the asshole. They got free babysitters, their children would have an amazing time and they can calmly enjoy the wedding. People are stupid. Not the asshole. They can say whatever complaint they like, but what I hear is your childcare option means I can't get wasted because I have to drive to pick up my kids. Not the asshole. This is the perfect definition of give an inch and they want a mile. A 5-minute drive isn't far away. It sounds like they essentially expected you to have a child room at the reception where they'd get the same food and the parents could go check on them between songs. Not the asshole. People are jerks, you did a lot more than many would, enjoy your life and congratulations. Not the asshole. Wow, how ungrateful can people be? What's the chances you could find a suitable, ready-made venue any closer? Very low, I think. Not the asshole. People suck. This is such a wonderful idea. But yeah, can't please everyone. I guess child-free next time jokes. WTF? Your arrangements were perfect. I think you're bloody amazing. I've never heard of anyone going to that effort and expense for wedding guests. Usually it's just child-free, and parents make their own arrangements. As others have said, it seems a case of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Please don't let people bring you down. You went above and beyond to try and be accommodating. Definitely not the asshole. Oh, and congratulations. Far away. A 5-minute drive is far away. Are y'all in Texas? Because that sounds like something my native Texan friends would say. Smiley face. When I clicked, I was thinking like across town or 20 or 50 miles. Seriously though, not the asshole. 2 whole miles? You monster. JK. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. My mom always said, no good deed goes unpunished. Sorry you had to deal with ingrates. Not the asshole. You went above and beyond for these kids. Screw the people who complained. If they thought it was fine, they would have found something else to complain about. I wish you a long, happy, healthy life together. Not the asshole. If I were a kid I would have preferred this over the wedding reception. Hanging out with kids my own age, black tick mark, 100x better food, black tick mark, no parents, black tick mark. I thought this was very thoughtful and well thought out. You would have thought it was a win-win. Nata. I hate the idea of child-free weddings, but yours was fucking awesome. People take note. If you want a child-free wedding, that is how you do it. Props to you. Not the asshole. Honestly should have made it fully child-free at that point. I also sure hope those people who were upset about the distance never leave their kids anywhere that is not right beside them with their attitudes. Not the asshole. That honestly sounds like a perfect solution compromise. Parents don't need to choose between finding a babysitter and staying home and getting the chance to relax and have fun at the wedding. Kids'll have a blast, and I bet the kids are much happier with their food options. Not the asshole. You did a great thing. Anyone who was upset about it should be on your list to cut out of your life and go no contact with. How entitled and ungrateful they were. Not the asshole. 2 miles isn't even that far away. If they cared that much they didn't have to go. Woman shrugging. But you still got screaming and crying kids at the wedding. It sounds like they're very big screaming and crying kids. The so-called adults being and whining about the arrangements. You're right about them being ingrates. It sounds like you had a perfect setup. Not your fault you have so many adult relatives that act like toddlers. Not the asshole. This was incredibly thoughtful and generous. I'm sorry your guests are giving you flack. Not the asshole. If someone else is paying a very qualified person to care for and feed you children and all you need to do is drop them off. Why are these people mad? They are jerks, not you, Not the asshole. You provided a lot for the kids. A 5-minute drive is nothing. Someone is always going to complain.
Am I the asshole for temporarily lying to family friends to trap a flying monkey enabler? I have been NC with my narcissistic, emotionally abusive parents for a year now. I changed my number ages ago, but someone had given them my new number as they recently attempted to make contact. I am only in touch with 4 mutuals: my sister, my aunt, childhood friend and cousin who is not the child of the aunt in question. Before I changed my number again, I wanted to trap the rat, tell each one of them a lie and see which one gets back to my parents before changing my number so I don't accidentally give it to the rat. Remember, these are all lies. I told my sister in having an affair, warned husband of this ahead of time he's in on it. Told my aunt I think I might be a lesbian, parents are very homophobic. Told childhood friend I think I am pregnant. And told my cousin I am moving back to my hometown near where and parents live for a job. Didn't take long. 3 days later, get a text from NMOM about how excited she is I'm moving back and it's the perfect time to bury the hatchet. I had changed my phone number and cut off contact with cousin and gave the other 3 my new number. And told them the situation, that these were all lies and I had to catch the rat to see who was giving info to my parents. Aunt and childhood friend understood. But sister, while she wasn't the rat and never told N parents, thinks I went too far and is upset with me for lying to her and is insulted. I think she'd betray my confidence. I told her I had to do this to protect myself from people who were leaking information. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. But just imagine the alternate timeline where your parents found out you were moving back home due to your husband kicking you out because of the lesbian affair you had but were still pregnant with his child. Woo boy. You need to apologize to your sister. I understand why you did what you did. But you hurt your sister in the process of protecting yourself. Gentle, you're the asshole. You caused stress to your sister by saying you were having an affair. If my sister told me this, I wouldn't sleep for days. She didn't deserve that. She had to think about if she wants to continue to associate with a cheater. If she wants to tell your husband, just apologize and move on. You're the asshole. Why go with the affair lie? That one is the worst out of all the lies. If my brother told me he was having an affair, it would break my heart and stress me out horrible ly. Like questioning if I could even talk to him again. To then be told it was all a lie to test my loyalty. I would be pissed. You likely caused her a lot of emotional pain. Again, I'm not saying you should not have tested her. I just think you should have picked a milder lie to tell. NTA for telling unique lies in order to catch the rat. But YTA for choosing the lie to tell your sister that you're having an affair. That's a big thing to have to roll back on. Where all of your other ones were deniably undoable. I'm not pregnant. I lost the job to the boss's nephew. I think I just really liked the dress she was wearing and got confused. Your sis will have gone through a lot of divided loyalty stuff for you already. So asking her to choose you over your marriage after already choosing you over your parents is too much. Bruh, those are some pretty extreme lies. You couldn't come up with anything less fucking intense? Oddly enough, the only lie I see as appropriately measured here is the one that got back to them. You should apologize to your sister. It's a very big and stressful thing you said, but I understand where you come from. However, her emotions are valid and you should value her companionship like she did yours. By making her understand that she is important to you. The only thing I don't understand is why you used 3 harmless stories. 2 of them was just thinking. And then one really awful story. What do you think that she felt when she was told that her beloved sister did such low morale deed? Why did you had to put her through this? Why not think of another? I think that story I think that's part of the reason why the aunt and childhood friend didn't really care about it. Esh. As in you. And obviously your parents and cousin. You're the asshole. And sound like a narcissist. You put your sister in a stressful, gut-wrenching position. And you don't have enough empathy to see it. You could have done this so many other ways. Without crapping on your sister like that. You need to apologize to her. And not in the narcissistic "I'm sorry that's how it made you feel" way. Reading all the N.T.A.S. Who are you people that don't give a crap about your sister having an affair? If you are going to do this plot, do one person at a time or come up with something that doesn't hurt the person you are lying to. I don't understand the need for lies. You could just as easily have accomplished the same goal by selectively revealing truths. Why did you feel the need to stress all these people out with giant lies? I think you might have an issue with empathy. You're the asshole for the position you put your sister in, honestly. So, your sister is now outed as someone who wouldn't tell your husband you are having an affair? Do they interact a lot? How does she feel about that? That was a shitty thing to do. You're the asshole. You don't sound well. I recommend going to a therapist. Nothing you've said is what normal people do. You're the asshole for the lie to your sister and aunt. Both those lies have significant effects on other people in your life. Especially your sister is in a moral dilemma on whether to tell your husband or participate in your affair. The one to your aunt isn't quite as bad, as there is no moral dilemma whether to tell, but it's still telling her your marriage is going to end and is based on a lie, and that's fairly stressful for her. Was this not emotionally abusive to the 3 other people? You sound high conflict. You're the asshole. If I were one of these trusted individuals, I would never believe anything else that came out of your mouth. Also, why wouldn't you just block your parents' numbers instead of all this? I believe your parents trained you well to be emotionally abusive. You're the asshole. There's only one person engaging in narcissistic emotional abuse in this story, and it's not your parents. YTA, your sister has the right to feel hurt, and you owe her an apology even if the others didn't care. Nah. Do you like when a store treats you as if they treat everyone as a potential thief? Because that's what you did here. You treated them all as rats. You shouldn't be surprised that at least one got offended. Thinking that your sister was a rat is offensive. You're the asshole. What you did was understandable. But it was still manipulative and involved betraying the trust of 3 people to catch out one. You're the asshole. Impact is more important than intent. I feel like most people are focusing on your reason for why you told these lies, which is completely understandable. However, the problem is that the lie you told your sister was not like the others, and when we consider the impact it may have had on her, it is hard to justify what you did. Nicely done, Tyrion, but you still hurt your sister and lose nothing by apologizing for causing her pain. Soft, you're the asshole. It's all about delivery and follow-up. It sounds like you told your sister a rather big lie and then were unapologetic about it after. For that, I'd say you're the asshole. Less so for the scheme itself and more for the follow-up. You're the asshole. You set up all these hoops to jump through. Selfishly, if I was your sister, I would be done with you because you're displaying the same traits as your toxic family, and I couldn't trust you. Either you're a liar or a cheater. Either way, you caused this yourself. Acting like an elementary school child spreading rumors. You're the asshole. People don't like being lied to and being considered untrustworthy. Am I the asshole for suspending my daughter's allowance? I have 2 children. My son, who is 13, and my daughter, who is 15. My wife was the one who came up with the names for our kids. as I never had strong opinions on a baby name. My wife decided to name our son after her great-grandfather. I never questioned it and never bothered to learn more about him. Which, looking back, was probably a mistake. A few months ago, our son was at a party with his friends from baseball, and they were sharing TikToks with each other. One of the boys shared a TikTok about an almost name, basically like it sounds. What your parents almost named you. One of my son's friends asked about my son's names and he mentioned who he was named after. The boy decided to type the name into Google and was scrolling through results until he found something interesting. My wife's great-grandfather was a state legislator in the southern U.S. before the civil rights era. As you may have guessed from that, he was a segregationist and voted in favor of bills to maintain segregation. When we picked our son up from the party, he started to yell at us and we had to calm him down. He asked why we would name him after a bad guy like his great-grandpa. This started some arguing in the car, and when we got home later that night, we discussed it. Our son told us he talked to his friends and he was changing his name. And that was final. My wife was a bit upset. She grew up here in the South when I'm originally from a hippie little town in New England. My wife has become a lot more accepting since we met, but this was still a bit hard for her. She eventually accepted it though and moved on. We now refer to a name chosen by our son with the help of his friends. His classmates at school have started to use it, and while he's had some issues, it hasn't been terrible. One of my son's friends is a trans boy and he has had it worse. Though my son and his other friends always work on protecting the boy from bullying. My son's new name is one he's proud of and named after someone he looks up to. Recently he got some items with his new name, like a men's necklace and a sign in his room. The issue is, a few days after he got the items with his new name, which was 2 weeks ago, our daughter went and ruined them by breaking the chain on the necklace and banging his sign. Our daughter doesn't like the name change, saying her brother is just being a sensitive zoomer and something about boys being too weak. These days, our daughter has said edgy stuff like this in the past year or so, even when we condemn her. As a result of the damage, my wife and I told her we were suspending her allowance until the price of the damages were paid back. Our daughter is saying we are being unfair to her, and has apologized for what she did. My wife went on her Facebook moms group to ask for help, and most of the moms agreed we were too hard on her. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Your daughter purposefully broke items that were meaningful to her younger brother because she disagreed with something that has no actual impact on her. Suspending her allowance to pay for replacements is a perfectly fair and logical consequence. At 15, she needs to understand that just apologizing doesn't make everything go away. Not the asshole, but you have dealt with the material issue but not the malice behind her behavior. Daughter breaks item. Daughter repays damage. All I see is an important life lesson. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. But you have a bigger problem. Your daughter did not come up with this stuff on her own. Unless your wife is saying this stuff behind your back. Your daughter is being fed some scary information through social media, YouTube, and/or her friends at school. You have to get to the bottom of this ASAP. Before it sticks. Not the asshole. Using her allowance to repay the items she broke and not accidentally Am I the asshole for not inviting my son's partner to my wedding? I am getting remarried to my fiancé in a month and the wedding preparations have gone well. Except for one issue. My fiancé's family is mostly conservative and thus not very supportive of same-sex relationships. And my fiancé's siblings plan to bring their children at our wedding and they obviously wouldn't want their kids to witness a gay couple at our wedding, so then they'd need to explain the situation to them. So we decided to disinvite my son's partner in his 20s from our wedding so we could avoid such issues. I thought my son would be mature about it and understand our side. But instead he kicked up a huge fuss about it, saying that I'm acting homophobic and embarrassed by him and that if his boyfriend can't attend the wedding then he won't either. I feel like he's being really unreasonable. Especially cause him and his boyfriend haven't even been together for that long. So it's not like he's really entitled to be invited at any family events yet, and my fiancé does take my side. However, my son is vehement that I'm an asshole and even got his mom to essentially gang up on me about this issue. Am I the asshole? You're the asshole. You've just shown your son where your loyalties lie. With your coward fiancé and her homophobic family instead of your own child. Don't be surprised when you're not invited to his wedding someday. Edit corrected genders. You're the asshole. Like, such an awe that I'm horrified for your son. You want to cut out your son's partner by blaming others' homophobia. It's disgusting and you should be ashamed. I thought my son would be mature about it. Gross. You're the asshole. Hate the how will I explain this to my kids argument, and I hate even more that you caved to it. Homophobes 1. Yes, you're the asshole. Why the hell would you want to invite homophobic people to your wedding knowing it will alienate your son? That's messed up. Are you going to make him hide forever? You're the asshole and you know it. You disinvited him to please homophobes. You're setting a precedent that you'll let your wife's family treat him horribly and make him hide himself. You are gladly marrying into this without a single shred of desire to stand up for your son or your own convictions if you're not really homophobic. Raging, you're the asshole and a shitty parent. You're the asshole. Your son is correct. You are homophobic. He's not the immature one here. That would be you. Oh, they're conservative? No, sweetie. They're homophobic ahs, and you thinking it's acceptable to cater to that shit makes you a homophobic ah as well. You're the asshole. You're the asshole. YT. This is your child. And you just showed him you do not have his back and that you want him to hide who he is. As for the kids at the wedding and their delicate sensibilities you adults are so worried about. Do these kids never leave home, watch any form of media, or use the internet? Guess what? They are going to see gay people whether or not you did the right thing by your son. Hopefully your son does the best thing for his mental health and goes no contact with you and your toxic new family. You're the asshole and you are homophobic. You are sending the message to your son that who he is as a human being is unacceptable and embarrassing, and that's absolutely horrible of you. He's your son. Screw your fiancé's bigotry. The way to explain a gay couple to a child is to simply tell them that some people are gay. They'll be fine with it. You care about a bunch of bigots over your own kid? I hope you're planning on those people to care for you in your old age. And what exactly is wrong with kids seeing gay people? What about pregnant people? They've clearly had sex. You're the asshole. I will never understand these parents who prefer to keep homophobes happy and not their gay children. What's next? Are you going to exclude him from everywhere in family gatherings? Or do you expect him to hide that he is gay so that your fiancé's family is happy? You're the asshole. You are throwing away your relationship with your son in favor of the bigoted family you are marrying into. Big, you're the asshole, and I can't believe you thought you'd get any other answer than this. You're the asshole. 100. You're allowing your new wife's family to dictate how you show up for your own kid. It's completely reasonable that your kid is upset and is calling you out on the homophobia. Unless your in-laws' kids are locked in their house 24/7. They have seen a queer couple before. And will see them in the future. Edit to correct gender. You're the asshole. You favor your bigot in-laws' comfort over your son as a full person. You are acting homophobic. You are acting embarrassed by him. Shame on you as a parent. Shame on you as a human. Do better and undo this before you lose contact with your son. You're the asshole again. That I'm acting homophobic and embarrassed by him. You're the asshole. Your son is correct. Horrible thing to do to your own flesh and blood. Shame on you. In a couple of years, why isn't my son visiting or calling me? I did nothing wrong. You're the asshole. You're choosing this new family over your son. It isn't going to stop here. He will be a pariah at every family gathering without anyone to support him. Your son's best course of action will be to distance himself from the father who's rejected him for fear of making people uncomfortable. Why even post here? You know your son is right. You just told him there is something wrong with him and his relationships. You also proved you won't back him if it costs you social approval. Why would you expect him to be mature about that? X200B. You're the asshole. You can invite who you want to invite, but personally, I wouldn't be inviting people who would look down upon my son that way. You had many ways to solve the situation amicably. It's unfortunate that you chose the one way that puts the dirty work on your son. You're the asshole. You've just told your son that your homophobic relatives are more important than he is. Uninvite the children. Stop being so cowardly. You're the asshole. You're as bad as them. You're the asshole. Enabling homophobes is 99 as bad as being one. Do better. You're the asshole. Need I say more? Do you really want your son to hate you and your fiancé because of a family of bigots? I thought you were supposed to protect your kids from such filth. You're a massive AH. So what if your family are ultra homophones? He's your future stepson, should be there. Tell your family to like it or lump it. You and your fiancé are assholes. And homophobic ones at that. Good luck repairing your relationship with your son. You are homophobic. You're the asshole. You are ashamed of him. You're about to be married. And your fiancé's family doesn't know about your son? And you're not going to make even a small attempt to defend your son? I don't understand how you'd be comfortable getting into a family that rage against the existence of people like your son. Your language is also homophobic. What's there to witness other than two people being together? Please reread what you just wrote and tell me that's not coming from a place of dismissal and homophobia. I'm sad for your son. You're the asshole. Him and his boyfriend haven't even been together for that long. They were together long enough for the partner to get invited initially. Don't try to justify your homophobia. You're not acting homophobic, you are homophobic. As a fellow parent, I am ashamed of you. I hope your son has better support elsewhere. Edit word. You're the asshole, you're the asshole, you're the asshole, you're the asshole. You're the asshole. X200B. Say your fiancé and her new family is more important to you than your own son and just be done with it. You're the asshole. If you're not sure why, read your post again.